Unforgotten footage that's just resurfacing.
Nancy Guthrie joins us now. Hi, Mom. Good morning.
It shows Today Show co-host Savannah Guthrie's mom in the bedroom of her home in Tucson. That's the same bedroom from which she was kidnapped 6 weeks ago. The live shot from Nancy's Tucson bedroom took place in 2013, just one of many charming appearances over the years from the 84-year-old mom and her famous daughter. The subject matter, how to make a bed with sharp hospital corners.
Well, I think everybody needs to know how to make a bed, and so when the time came to teach you guys how to make a bed, this is what I tried to teach you.
Savannah's colleagues put their bed-making skills to the test.
Check it out, Mom. Look at Natalie's. It's quite excellent.
Natalie Morales was then with the Today Show. She's now a 48 Hours correspondent with CBS News. I spoke with her today.
Seeing that today, it just, I got emotional.
Natalie got to know Nancy during her many appearances.
Everybody's family becomes a part of the Today Show family. Viewers get to know our families. My mom has been on a couple times, along with Savannah's mom and Hoda's mom.
It's so poignant to see you guys interacting with her. Kind of haunting now after the fact, is it not?
Haunting, especially because you're seeing inside what is, I believe, her bedroom and her bed. Just imagining the horror that happened.
As for speculation that Nancy Guthrie was targeted because of her many appearances on the Today Show,
you don't want to think that way, but yeah, you can't help but wonder if perhaps it allowed her or allowed any of our family to be targets.
Does the bittersweet footage tell us anything?
To think about her, an 84-year-old woman, laying in bed trapped because of the proximity of the bed, right tight up against that nightstand, and then tight up against the wall, and then the window right there where somebody could be peering in at her.
As the 2013 segment came to an end, Savannah said goodbye to her beloved mother, who got up at 3 a.m. to participate on her daughter's show.
I'll teach you a skill. It's called napping when you get up at these hours. It's a good one to have. Love you, Mom.
All right, I think I successfully did it. I'm gonna have to go look at the playback. I needed to test something out, y'all. But let me share a screen so we can look at a few things and discuss, okay? Because there have been a few things that have happened. I will say that.
Welcome back. 24 minutes after the hour. There are new developments in the mysterious disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. News Nation has just learned that photos from all 3 security cameras at her home have been recovered. While authorities say nothing of note has been found so far, investigators are taking a closer look at the security gate on the door. News Nation senior correspondent Brian Enton has been on top of this case from the very start. Brian, good afternoon. What is the significance of Nancy's front door?
Yeah, first of all, it's good news that they're making progress with the other cameras. Nick, we've reported on that. Of course, they had the camera from the front door. Now they also have it from the back. But look at this. This is interesting. A lot of people didn't pick up on this. There's a security door in front of the front door. It's got bars. A lot of people in the area have these security doors that go in front of the front door. It's almost like a screen door, but there's serious bars there. And I'm told they're specifically interested in it because when you think about it and you see the video from the suspect at the front door, it would be very, very difficult to break through that front security door, which is leading some law enforcement experts to believe that there may have already been someone inside the house with Nancy inside the house. And this may have been a second suspect, this one you see here, at the front door, getting ready for them to bring Nancy out the front door. Again, it's just a theory. It's something to think about. But the fact that there is that security door that was presumably locked would make it very difficult for someone to actually break in through the front door, Nick.
Oh, Brian, that is definitely something we had not picked up on before. What more are you hearing from Nancy's neighbors about the FBI in the neighborhood?
Yeah, so the FBI has been back in the neighborhood the last several days, I am told, talking to the same neighbors again who live right near Nancy's house, but with some new questions. They're zeroing in on some dates that I hadn't heard before. We knew about January 11th. They wanted video from January 11th. They're now asking for video also from the weekend before Nancy went missing, which is interesting. Makes you wonder if they believe that this person may have cased the house, cased the neighborhood, and they seem to be specifically interested on weekends.
All right, and let me say this about targeted attack and not a robbery. Casing the homes or casing her home would have told them her movements, when she would come and go. And I heard that the nights over at her daughter's was a regular thing. So they would know what her movements were. They knew she was home. So this was definitely targeted. This was not a random burglary. Hey, Madam of the Mess, my Madam Mescaboo.
Which is also sort of standing out to me. You know, is it possible they think this person has a job during the week and was casing the house on the weekends? These are the kinds of questions that they've been asking the neighbors, Nick.
Brian, this is still so troubling. Have we heard anything more from the family?
No, we haven't heard much. Savannah Guthrie hasn't released another video. She's obviously back in New York City now. She hasn't been back on the Today Show, but she hasn't been in Arizona from what I've been told. In terms of her sister, Annie, who lives just a couple of miles away, she also hasn't said anything publicly. The last time that we saw her and Savannah was several weeks ago when they actually went out and visited the house and went and visited this memorial that's in front of the house.
News Nation's Brian Enton with the very latest on the Nancy Guthrie case. Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below, download, or...
Y'all know I have been heavy on the opinion, just an opinion, and everything is alleged, that the son-in-law had something to do with this because he saw her last. I'm not the only person. But because these lie detectors were done and they said that they passed them, it makes it a little bit different now. Let's look at the lie detector information. Then I'm going to let you see a video another person did that makes so much sense. It makes a lot of sense. Hold on. You get the right video. Like with the son-in-law being the last person to see her. All right.
Just sharing with the public, and we're days away from getting an arrest. It sounds like it.
Report from a very, very reliable source that is boots on the ground there, that the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Office have no leads, no solid suspects.
What?
And this is from someone boots on the ground that I trust. All right. They have no solid leads. I can also report that it has been confirmed this morning, and I'm sure we all assume this, that every family member passed polygraphs with flying colors. So what does this other date have in mind? Probably tells me that there was just some images or some type of electronic evidence that's kind of pushing them to try to dive into that date a little bit more. But that is a conversation
That's huge,
that I
though.
had.
That information is huge. So then that means, I mean, I know some people don't believe in the polygraphs. I do. But if that's true, then we can move on from the brother-in-law and the sister. And it kind of sheds a little more light on the sheriff's statement to NBC that he's had a theory about this case from the beginning, and nothing has moved him off his theory, and that he does believe he knows the motivation for the crime. And in the interim between that first day and now, where he says his theory hasn't changed, he did say that the family had been ruled out.
To be honest,
he then kind of begged off of it because, of course, they don't have anybody in custody. So I'm not sure you can say anybody's been totally ruled out. But that's very interesting. I want to play for you the sheriff's comment to NBC News just days ago on how he's saying, contrary to what you're saying, that he thinks he knows the motive, which would be a lead. But you tell me. Here he is.
There is something that's come out in the investigation that gives you a sense of motive here and why this person did this?
You know, I think it's come out from day one. I think from day one, we had some strong beliefs about what happened, and those beliefs haven't diminished.
Do you believe it was a burglary gone wrong?
I'm not going to get into those theories. We have our beliefs. Everybody else has theirs.
Nano says he's intentionally withholding their theory and other details in the case, citing the integrity of the investigation.
But you're saying, Chad, no leads?
You can have a theory. Let me correct the way he worded it. No suspects. All right. You can have leads without suspects, obviously, and that's what they're doing. That's why I keep going back to these residences and these houses and following up with neighbors over and over again. I agree. They're probably on to some type of theory, but we still don't have a suspect.
This is like amazing. But if that's true, so are you revising what you were told from no leads to no suspects?
The way he worded it is the FBI has no suspects.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm not shocked to hear that, but like that doesn't bode well in terms of, like if you look back at the Brian Kohlberger case, it took 48 days or something like that to nab him, but they had a suspect for, a good chunk of that last portion there, Jonathan. It wasn't bupkis. Like they'd been working leads. They had found the knife sheath. They knew the car that the suspect had been driving. They were going through meticulously all the records of the white Hyundai Elantras of certain years. It sounds like none of that's happening here. It sounds like, if Chad's right, it sounds like there isn't some special sauce of hot leads they've been pursuing that they're not just sharing with the public and we're days away from getting an arrest. It sounds like it is as cold and unsatisfying as many of us have feared.
Right. And so no suspects does not mean that there's no theories, of course. And, this is criminology. So rarely do we get an evolution in tactics by criminals. So criminals fall into like everything else. Everybody goes to the grocery store at the same time. You put something out online and next thing you know, everybody's wearing that clothing, that article of clothing, or watching that TV show. So criminals are very similar. They develop tactics because these people are not rocket scientists typically. They develop tactics.
All right, now I want to look at this back gate thing. Hold on.
Welcome back. 24 minutes after the hour.
Wait.
There are new developments in the mysterious disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. News Nation has just learned that photos from all 3 security cameras at her home have been recovered. While authorities say nothing of note has been found so far, investigators are taking a closer look at the security gate on the door. News Nation senior correspondent Brian Enton has been on top of this case from the very start. Brian, good afternoon. What is the significance of...
Hi, I got it. All right, this one, and then I want to go to the one that
Nancy Guthrie. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. But she disappeared more than 6 weeks ago. The intense media and law enforcement presence that descended on her little community there, kind of a nice community in the Catalina foothills north of Tucson, has mostly dissipated. Local officials have not held a news conference in over a month, and law enforcement still has.
There have been several ransom notes, but I don't think any of them were real. When I get ready to show you the video, I'm going to tell you what I think. I believe she passed away that same day. I think those ransom notes came up after the news broke that she was missing and it was looking like a kidnapping. Then all of a sudden, all these ransom notes started coming in. And I also think it was, a deflection tactic. But I really do not believe that any of these ransom notes were real because there was never proof of life. And if really taking and kidnapping someone for money, you're going to make sure you're able to sustain their life. And being that they did not take any of her medications, they had no plans in sustaining her life. Also, people are saying, well, the pacemaker disconnected at 2, so she was alive up until then. Not necessarily, because the pacemaker will continue to fire until it's disconnected from its source. So she could be not living and the pacemaker would still be firing off. But let's look at this.
Not determined a motive in the abduction. So Sheriff Chris Nanos, a mostly unimpressive person, recently put out a statement just a couple days ago. This remains an active investigation, he says, and investigators are focusing on evidence analysis, including DNA and digital. We will not get into the specifics because you don't have any. The FBI is silent. At least he's saying something. Savannah Guthrie is back in New York. I don't think she's on the Today Show yet. But there's a sign outside her mother's house, and it says, "Dear media, this neighborhood needs space to process, to heal, and gather in privacy as a loving community. Please cover this tragedy from elsewhere so that we may have some privacy space and dignity." And there's that sign. And right now we welcome our friend here at Hot Mike's, a guy that's covered this story better than anybody, and that is senior national correspondent for News Nation, Brian Enton. Brian, you have adhered to that sign, and you are no longer there. When you left, you must have felt like shit. Like I thought for sure she was going to be found. I just thought, technology the way it is these days. So what are your feelings right now?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways I didn't want to leave Billy. I left on Saturday. I think it was like day 42 or 43 that I hadn't been home. I never went home for a weekend or anything. So I just kind of left to recharge. I'm back in Miami now. I'm going to go back. Can't believe it's now day 47. But yeah, I mean, I hope that when I left, there would be some kind of resolution. And there's not, and I don't, the sources that I made there, it doesn't, which is one of the reasons I took a break, because I don't have any indication that they're getting really close at this point or that they're on the brink of something. So it's just still a huge mystery.
I imagine you're ready to fly right back as soon as something happens. I wonder, is there anything at all that's remotely encouraging as a possible lead at this point?
I mean, there's this task force that they put together now. I mean, it seems much more, you were talking about the sheriff, it was disorganized in the beginning. When I left, it seems much more organized. And the FBI seems to be more in control of the whole thing. So I think that's encouraging. Even yesterday I was talking to the neighbors, and the FBI was back in the neighborhood again. They're asking about really specific dates, which I think is interesting. They were asking about January 11th, which they've asked about before, but now they're also asking about January 24th, which is the Saturday before Nancy went missing. And they're going to neighbors and asking specifically for video from January 24th.
Why? Because of a suspicious person walking in the neighborhood?
Yeah, that's what I think. I mean, I don't know exactly why, but I think they have reason to believe that this person or people were casing Nancy's house the weekends before. And the weekend element is interesting. Makes me wonder, does the person have a day job Monday through Friday? Right. Why is it weekends that they're looking into? So that seems to be some progress there.
Even asking that question, Brian, I think you're qualified to be the next sheriff of Pima County. Savannah is gone. The sign is up. The tumbleweeds blow in the Catalina foothills. There's a couple of streamers. I understand a couple of TikTok streamers who just won't give up, or kind of driving around getting coffee for each other and trying to figure it out. What do you imagine, as you sit there in the quiet moments at the end of your day? What do you imagine happened?
Yeah, just my personal feeling based on everything I know, I don't think it was the burglary gone wrong. I just don't, to me, that doesn't make sense. Why would burglars then take Nancy away? And even if something happened to Nancy while they were there, I just think they would have fled. I don't think they would then, figure out how to abduct and take or if she passed away even at the house, get her body away. That doesn't make sense to me. The feeling that I have is that it wasn't a targeted abduction. I mean, that they went to take her on purpose, not because of a burglary. And again, this is just based on everything that I've tried to figure out since I was there. And something may have gone wrong where Nancy passed away. Maybe the intention was to try to get some ransom money. And I don't think those TMZ letters are real, by the way, but maybe the intention was to get some ransom money. Something went wrong. She passes away. And now they're like, what do we do now? We don't want to get charged with murder. We don't want to run the risk of reaching out to the family and still trying to get money to return the body. So they just vanished and got rid of the body. I think that's a pretty good theory of what may have happened.
What's so stunning is that, like, why do you think there's a connection between, it's the rich Today Show lady's mom, let's get her? Is there? It's got to be.
I don't know, but I do. Yeah. I mean, these things don't happen randomly. I mean, they just don't. And why else would you take this 184-year-old woman? There's not, I mean, she's got a beautiful house, but there's nicer houses in the neighborhood. There's richer, I think it must have had something to do with them knowing that Savannah would be able to pay a ransom.
Oh my God. All right. Looking in the comment section, I agree with Brian. Ransom gone wrong. Jackie says her body's out there, dumped in the desert. Oh God, I hope not. Brian's explanation sounds very plausible. She became more of a liability, is what one person feels. Oh God, it's just so heartbreaking. I wonder, I mean, the Pima County Sheriff has gotten his teeth kicked in over this. They call him Barney Fife. And the FBI, we know that they had a strained relationship, local and federal. But the FBI, you say, is...
All right, let's take a look. Sorry, my grandbabies are here. Whew, so I had to run to the door. Hold on. Oh, let's take a look at why the sheriff is under fire. They're trying to boot him out as the sheriff. And then we're going to finish up Nancy's segment with looking at the video I was telling y'all about. Okay. Where is it? All right.
Well, since the beginning, this show has been calling out the incompetence and failed leadership of Pima County Sheriff Christopher Nanos in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. And now it seems that the locals have had enough too. Driven by the anger and frustration of Pima County residents, the sheriff is facing a possible recall that could have him ousted from his current office. The man leading the charge is Republican congressional candidate Daniel Gutierrez, and he joins us now. Sir, thank you so much for coming on the show. So the police in Pima County... Yes, of course. Police in Pima County had a unanimous vote of no confidence in Sheriff Nanos last week. And it's also come to light that the sheriff had to resign from the El Paso Police Department after packing up a laundry list of infractions. What do you think the final straw was for those officers?
The final straw was the false resume. That was the one that caused them to take a vote. To me, I've been watching Nanos for a while because I've been traveling the southern border. And as you know, Pima County borders along the border.
Yes,
and
it does.
For 4 years, drugs had poured across that border by drug runners and backpacks. Mr. Chilton, he's a rancher along that border, has filmed it for 4 years. And he's got images of thousands of drug runners coming across the border. The exact path they take, the exact time of day, and he's given it to law enforcement, and there has been one arrest.
So this is about more than, of course, the Nancy Guthrie case. This was just the straw that broke the camel's back, essentially.
Yeah. And Nancy Guthrie was the final thing, and I've been out to Nancy Guthrie's. It's a shame.
It take it forever to get there. The main reason why they have an issue with Nanos is... every day he's at the gym. It said Jim sees him more than the case does. And he done bought himself a little Corvette, baby. Riding around in his Corvette. So the people are upset. They want to know what he's doing and why he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. Okay. Now I'm going to let you go back out there. I'm going to take y'all to just the beginning of this video that I saw that I found to be very interesting about this case.
Because those 4 hours have not been explained. They have not been investigated publicly. And when you look at what was for 6 weeks, every video about Nancy Guthrie has started in the same place.
If you are easily triggered, please click off now.
1:47 a.m. The camera goes dark. A man on the porch. 41 minutes inside the house. Blood on the steps. Pacemaker disconnects at 2:28. The car at 2:36. That is the story everyone has been telling. That is the timeline everyone has been analyzing. And none of it has produced an arrest. I am not starting there. I am starting 4 hours earlier. At 9:50 p.m. on January 31st, when a garage door closed in the Catalina foothills, and the only person who can confirm what happened on the other side of it is the man the FBI has visited more than 5 times since. Tommaso Cioni says he drove Nancy home from dinner at his house. He says he watched her enter through the garage. He says the door closed behind her. He says she was safely inside. That is his account. The only independent confirmation that Nancy entered that house is a garage door closing at 9:50 p.m. No camera recorded her walking inside. No neighbor saw the drop-off. Everything else comes from the account of the last person to see her. And then there is the medication. Nancy had an evening dose, heart medication she was supposed to take around 10 p.m. She was dropped off between 9:45 and 9:50. She had 5 to 15 minutes before that dose was due. It was found the next day, completely untouched on the kitchen counter. An 84-year-old woman with a pacemaker, who the sheriff said could not survive 24 hours without her medication, got home, walked past the counter where her pills were waiting, and did not take them. Either she forgot, possible, but unusual for a woman described by the sheriff as having great sound mind. Or she went straight to bed, possible, but that means she broke her own medical routine on the one night it mattered most. Or something interrupted her before she reached the counter. Or she never reached the counter at all. Her hearing aids were out. She could hear nothing. Her phone was on the nightstand. Her wallet was in the house. Her car was in the garage. Everything that belonged to Nancy was exactly where it should be. Everything except Nancy. For 6 weeks, the internet has been focused on who the man on the porch was. I have been asking a different question. What happened between 9:50 p.m. and 1:47 a.m.? Because those 4 hours have not been explained. They have not been investigated publicly. And when you look at what was found and what was not found in Tommaso Cioni's car after 40 days in police custody, in the desert outside Tucson, where searchers reportedly recovered size 12 women's pants and a black jacket, in the connections between Tommaso's music scene and the man who sent a ransom text directly to his phone, not to Savannah, not to the FBI, to Tommaso personally, those 4 hours start to look less like a gap and more like the answer. This is the video that goes where nobody else has gone. Not the porch, not the backward walker, not the sheriff's contradictions. The 4 hours before any of that happened. And by the end, this case is not going to look the way it looked when you clicked on this video. Nancy Guthrie took her hearing aids out every night before bed. Powerful ones. Without them, she heard nothing. She was 84 years old. She had a pacemaker that synced to her Apple devices while she slept. She took medication every morning and every evening that managed serious heart conditions. She weighed 150 pounds. And every night, after the hearing aids came out, she went to sleep in a house in the Arizona desert with nobody else in it. She had raised 3 children alone after her husband Charles died on a mining trip in Mexico in 1988. She was 46. She became the mother and the father overnight. Former FBI agent Maureen O'Connell, whose own father died when she was the same age as Savannah, described women like Nancy as fiercely independent, the kind who will not go into assisted living, the kind who wants to stay in their own home no matter what anyone says. Nancy was that woman. She did not drive at night, not because she could not, because she did not like pulling into a dark, empty house alone after dark. During the day she was fine, but evenings she relied on family or Uber. Every Uber ride home was a stranger who now knew her address, that she was elderly, that she arrived alone after dark, and that the house at the end of the desert road had a camera that was not recording. Her daughter Savannah earns $8 million a year in New York. Her son Cameron is a retired Air Force colonel who flew F-16s. Her daughter Annie lives 4 miles away with her husband Tommaso. Nancy had family. She had resources around her. But there was no live-in caretaker, no medical alert pendant, no panic button, and a Nest doorbell camera with no active cloud subscription, a camera that could detect motion but was not saving footage to any server. For all practical purposes, it was decoration. And the people who spent time in that house knew it. On the evening of January 31st, Nancy took an Uber to Annie and Tommaso's house. She arrived at 5:32 p.m., according to the Pima County Sheriff's timeline. Dinner, games, a margarita. Savannah once told her on television not to drink the whole one because she was small. A normal Friday. At approximately 9:48 p.m., Tommaso drove her home. The drive takes about 10 minutes. The garage door closed at 9:50 p.m. Tommaso says he confirmed she was inside. Then he drove back to his house, 4 miles. And for the next 14 hours, nobody contacted Nancy. Nobody called. Nobody texted. Nobody drove 4 miles to check on an 84-year-old woman with a pacemaker who was about to take her hearing aids out and become completely deaf in a house where the security camera was not recording. She was not reported missing because someone was worried about her. She was reported missing because she did not show up to watch a church live stream at a friend's house the next day. Around 11 a.m., family members went to check. They searched the house. They searched the property. No sign of her. At noon, they called 911. By then, whatever happened to Nancy Guthrie had been over for at least 9 hours. Now I need to walk you through what the evidence says happened inside that house. Not what the sheriff has told you, not the summary you have heard repeated on every news channel for 6 weeks. The actual evidence, what it shows, what it does not show, and what has never been explained. At 1:47 a.m., the Nest doorbell camera was physically disabled. Someone put their hands on it. The FBI recovered residual footage through a partnership with Google, images and video that were never supposed to exist because the camera was not recording to the cloud. What they recovered shows a figure on the porch who moves through the space like someone who lives there, not searching, not scanning, walking directly to the camera with the kind of muscle memory that only comes from repetition. Body language analysts called it ownership behavior. He taps the camera lens twice before disabling it. Casual, like checking a light switch on the way out of a room. He is wearing black nitrile gloves, a ski mask with facial hair visible underneath, a mustache or goatee, a 25-liter Ozark Trail backpack from Walmart with reflective strips, a belly band holster with a firearm strapped in the wrong position, and something in his pocket, an antenna, a protruding shape that does not match a phone. The FBI described him as 5'9" to 5'10" with an average build.
And that thing in his pocket, a lot of people are now believing it was a Wi-Fi jammer. Because not only did Nancy's Wi-Fi or signal mess up, but so did a neighbor as well. So that's what I believe was in his pocket.
Former profiler Jim Clementi identified what appeared to be a tattoo or marking on his right wrist, visible when the glove shifted during movement. What happened over the next 41 minutes has not been fully disclosed. The camera was down. What we know comes from what was left behind. Blood on the front porch, blood down the driveway. The droplets were round with intact spheres. Former FBI agent O'Connell assessed that this pattern indicates the blood fell straight down from a stationary height, consistent with someone being carried rather than walking under their own power. No voids from footprints stepping through the blood. No smearing. No drag marks. O'Connell's read: Nancy was wrapped in something, carried through the oak front door.
And I believe that as well. I find it very strange that her last dose of medication was not taken. The last person that saw her was her son-in-law. It's just very weird. This is a very strange case. And it's kind of all over the place. But the way my theory has always been in line to what you're hearing right now. This has always been my theory. But I could be wrong, you know?
Past the wrought iron gate and placed in a vehicle. Nancy weighed 150 pounds. One person could do it, but it would not be easy, and it would not be quick. The medication sat untouched on the kitchen counter. Morning dose, evening dose, both still there. The phone was on the nightstand. The wallet was in the house. Nothing was stolen. Nothing was taken except Nancy. At 2:28 a.m., her pacemaker lost its Bluetooth connection to her phone on the nightstand. That is the last electronic trace Nancy Guthrie left in this world. 41 minutes from
Okay, and again, remember what I said about the pacemaker. A person could be dead and that pacemaker will still be going. It's still connected by Bluetooth. It disconnected once she was removed from that home.
Camera down to pacemaker disconnect. 41 minutes of someone inside that house who was not rushing, who was not panicking, who moved through the rooms the way you move through your own home at 2 a.m, when you know every creaking floorboard and every silent step. But the crime on February 1st did not start on February 1st. On January 23rd, 9 days before the abduction, a video appeared on the Ring Neighbors app. A man walking backward up a residential driveway in the Catalina foothills, 6.5 miles from Nancy's house. Not stumbling, not drunk. Walking backward with deliberate, measured steps, his back flat to the camera, chin tucked. Consumer security cameras do not record constantly. They rely on passive infrared sensors to detect body heat and motion. When someone enters the frame, the sensor wakes the processor, the lens adjusts, the Wi-Fi handshakes with the server. That process takes 1 to 2 seconds. Walk forward, and the camera captures your face during those seconds. Walk backward, and it captures nothing but the back of a hoodie. By the time the lens is fully live, your face is already shielded. This man was exploiting a specific technical vulnerability in consumer cameras, using nothing but his body.
But what behooves me the most? You have a mother, 84 years old, very ill, and she's the mother of someone that, is a celebrity. Why wasn't there better methods to keep her safe? Why wasn't there a subscription to the door camera? Why was none of this done? It's just strange to me. It's strange, okay? Very strange.
Not improvisation. That is research. The house he chose sits in the Catalina foothills. Same isolated desert homes. Same long driveways. Same dark sky ordinances. Minimal street lighting. Deep shadow. 6.5 miles from Nancy's front door. Far enough to avoid any connection if caught. Close enough to replicate the exact environment of the target. He was running a simulation. When a dog barked, he ran. But he maintained his backward orientation. He suppressed the reflex to turn toward the sound. He would rather fall than give the camera one frame of his face. That is discipline that comes from rehearsal, from someone who played this moment in their mind so many times that execution overrode instinct. The backpack he wore was visually identical to the one seen at Nancy's house 9 days later. The Ozark Trail 25-liter pack with distinctive reflective safety strips. Same bag, different house. Now compare the two appearances. On January 23rd, the suspect is terrified, hunched, paranoid about every angle. On February 1st, he walks forward onto Nancy's porch, calm. He taps the camera twice. He is not afraid of the technology anymore, because 9 days ago, the police did not knock on his door. He learned he was invisible. By February 1st, he was not testing, he was executing. The sheriff flagged January 11th as a separate date of interest, 21 days before the abduction, and requested neighborhood footage from 9 p.m. to midnight. He never explained why.
It's something, don't you start that crying. It's something about a white vehicle being in the neighborhood on those days and caught on camera. And I heard like the street cameras, they're not of good quality because they have this law where the lights can't be too bright, which is so unfortunate. I mean, this case just, I don't know. I've never been this stuck on a case. Like, usually I can figure it out, but this one is different.
3 dates, 3 weeks, January 11th, January 23rd, February 1st. Observation, rehearsal, execution. 4 major news networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN, independently confirmed through law enforcement sources that the suspect visited Nancy's actual home on multiple occasions before the night she was taken. In one FBI image, the suspect has no backpack. In the video, he does. Same clothing, different equipment load, 2 different visits. The Pima County Sheriff's Department called those reports purely speculative. 4 networks, 4 independent sources, the sheriff standing alone on the other side. Now, the cameras next door, because this is where the sophistication becomes undeniable. On March 6th, FBI agents went door to door in Nancy's neighborhood, asking whether anyone experienced internet disruptions on the night of February 1st. Multiple homeowners said yes. One neighbor, close enough that you can see Nancy's house from the yard, found his Ring camera history was not available for that night. But not all his cameras, only the ones facing Nancy's property. The cameras on the other side of his house, same router, same network, same power, recorded normally. That is not an internet outage. That is targeted electronic disruption aimed at specific devices in a specific direction. Most people hear Wi-Fi jammer and picture a blunt device that kills everything. But Nancy's Nest camera still captured footage before being disabled. Her pacemaker stayed connected until 2:28. A brute force jammer would have knocked both out immediately. Retired FBI agent Jennifer Coffender confirmed, whatever caused the disruption was not a full jammer. There is a third type of device, a de-authentication tool. It sends commands within the Wi-Fi protocol that tricks specific devices into disconnecting. It is surgical, directional. It can target the cameras on one side of a house while leaving the other side untouched. It costs less than $30. It fits in a pocket, and it would explain exactly what the neighbors described. The same neighbor whose cameras went dark said their dog woke them up at the same time, middle of the night, completely out of character. The dog went outside and stood staring toward Nancy's house with its ears up. Eric Maldonado, 29 years with Pima County, said dogs hear frequencies humans cannot. The dog reacted to something real at the exact moment the cameras went blind. Behind Nancy's house is a stretch of open desert. The neighbor lives on the same patch. If the suspect approached through the desert from the back, not the street where a parked car would be noticed, he would have passed close enough to those cameras for a device in his pocket to knock them offline as he walked by. Fox News drone footage later showed smashed floodlights at the rear of Nancy's property. Front camera disabled by hand. Rear lighting destroyed. 2 points of entry preparation. One person could do both, but 2 people doing them simultaneously is what retired Las Vegas Lieutenant Randy Sutton assessed as a potential indicator of multiple suspects. 8 minutes after the pacemaker disconnected, a camera 2.5 miles away on Camino Real captured a vehicle at 2:36 a.m. NBC correspondent Liz Kreutz drove from Nancy's house to that camera. 6 minutes. Pacemaker at 2:28. 6 minutes of driving. Car appears at 2:36. 2 minutes of margin. The kind of pause you make when you stop at the end of a street to check mirrors before pulling onto the back road out. The sheriff confirmed the timing matches. The camera belongs to a couple who live outside the search perimeter. Nobody from law enforcement asked for their footage. They found it themselves and brought it in. That is the crime. Now let me show you the web that surrounds it. Because this case does not exist in a vacuum. It exists inside a network of people, relationships, and documented connections that all lead back to the same place. Tommaso Cioni has been part of Tucson's music scene for nearly 20 years. His band, Early Black, plays post-punk.
Because Nancy Grace is one of the people, but a lot of people have been coming down on us content creators that have been talking about this and saying his name and the other person's name, the other bandmate. And they're saying like, because they passed polygraphs, we shouldn't even be saying that they're involved. But I don't think that we should count them out because it just makes sense to me. Hold on a minute. And we're about to segue into that other story. But an elderly woman disappears from her home. Blood is found inside. A masked suspect is seen on camera. Investigators believe she was targeted. And after weeks, no arrests, no answers, which means somewhere out there, the person responsible is still free. And the question is no longer just what happened to Nancy Guthrie, but why her? Why her? Now, this next story, it kind of remind me of the Shanquella Robinson case. Like you have someone going abroad and then they wind up no longer here, okay? This is one of those stories that sounds like it should have been a dream vacation, but ended in tragedy. A young college student from Alabama travels all the way to Barcelona, Spain, and never makes it back home. Now his family is left with questions, and people are starting to ask what really happened to Jimmy Gracey. Is this another tragic accident? Or is this Shanquella Robertson case all over again? Let's take a look at this video, and then I'm going to close out. Because I have a lot of questions with this case as well. I'm not going to just believe, what has been said immediately after. I need a little bit more investigating.
Questions still unanswered at this point. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime.
Oops, sorry.
I'm Chris Stewart.
There you.
Police in Barcelona in the last couple of hours say they located a body in the water not far from the nightclub where Jimmy Gracey was last seen. And just as we are recording this, police have confirmed that it is the body of Jimmy Gracey. Now, it is unclear how Jimmy died and the circumstances surrounding his death. An autopsy will be performed to confirm that information. Jimmy was last seen around 3 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday outside a club called Foco on the beach in Barcelona. He is originally from the Chicago area. He went to the University of Alabama, and he was in Barcelona visiting friends who were studying abroad, and he was there for spring break. Now, he somehow got separated from his friends who were also at this club. They end up back at their Airbnb, and then Jimmy never returned. And that is when this search began. And then in the early evening hours today in Barcelona on Thursday, Fox News is reporting there was a worker at a marina that sits adjacent to the nightclub that is right on the beach in Barcelona. And that worker flagged down police because apparently they had seen something. That area was roped off. And shortly after, police said they found a body. They put the announcement out on social media that the body was that of Jimmy, and that part of this story was made official. Joining us now to talk about the latest developments in this case is Phil Waters, retired homicide detective. Thank you for being with us. Definitely not the outcome that anybody was hoping for when this story first broke earlier this week. But police in Barcelona confirming, quote, they have confirmed that the person found dead is James Gracey, the 20-year-old boy who went missing on Tuesday in Barcelona. I know that there's been some reports out there that, El Periodico, which is an outlet in Barcelona, saying their sources are saying they believe that this was a drowning. We don't know for sure.
Let me, before we get too far into this story, let me go into Dr. Gregory real fast. There are different ways that you can potentially pass a polygraph. And I was even told that, like certain places that you work for, whether it's FBI, CIA, they know how to pass a polygraph test. Also, I think if you are a marijuana smoker, you could kind of fake out a polygraph test or be discounted when you take it. It does depend on if you took something or not. Rika Tubba, I love my Xanax. Ooh, that's the best sleep ever. You hear me? But yeah, you're so right, Dr. Gregory. And it's different medications that will help you pass this polygraph test. But they say they can spot these things. So I don't know. I need more information on that because The son-in-law, being he dropped her off, makes so much sense to me. And what makes sense is something happened when he dropped her off, and they went back at 2:00 to remove her body. That's just my thoughts.
What's the process now in a case like this? What will investigators do now that they've confirmed that this body that was found in a marina not far from the nightclub is actually James Gracey?
Well, it's good to be with you, Chris. Sorry it's on such a somber topic, but so what happens now? I'm sure I would imagine the authorities there have already tried to trace his movement. He apparently went missing around 3 a.m. in the morning and was seen talking with a young unidentified female. So now we have the wallet recovery. Now all of a sudden we've got his recovery. And I think the first thing that the detectives are going to look at is, number one, is there any trauma on the body that would suggest that he was murdered? And was this simply tox tests that come back, of course, are going to tell the tale on any level of intoxication and what he was intoxicated on, if he was. So trying to further explain how he ends up in the water. If there's no signs of trauma on the body and the autopsy doesn't result in anything other than a drowning as the cause of death, then this is certainly reminiscent of the young man in Nashville that left a bar, got separated from his friends, walked down the river, and ended up in the water. And there were some of the things that he had that were found. So that is what this is kind of reflecting at this point in
Y'all
time.
don't remember and see cases involving our Black children. They don't get told that often. But it was maybe a year or two ago, right after the Alabama brawl that took place on the ship out there. Didn't a young Black girl was with some of her friends and they found her in the water later on? Let me look that case up while that plays. Let me look it up.
The same kind of tragedy, just in a different location. And but again, they'll get that cleared up at the autopsy, whether or not this was an accident or whether this was a homicide.
You know, I remember that case in Nashville well, and I also remember there was one last year on spring break, and it was an American college student in the Dominican Republic, and you know she ends up going to the beach late at night with a guy, and her body was never found. And I think in this case, I mean, I know like where the bar here is located. You know, there's kind of this marina, a couple jetties, so it might be a little bit more of an enclosed area where I think that was more like open water, but I mean, how common is it in cases like this that you actually do, especially thinking like you're dealing with the ocean, you know, how hard can it be to find a body typically? And that you have something like this where, you know, apparently it was early evening hours in Barcelona today, a worker at a marina saw something and then flagged police down.
Well, it's you know, it's all about the tides. I have actually been to that port, and those clubs along there, I mean, they are right there on the water. They're I'm sure there's railings and that kind of thing that protect them from it, but we don't know when that body falls in the water, especially on the ocean side of things. It's all about the tides and at what point in time did they fall in, and then where was it taken, and then where does it end up coming in? And I don't know. I know it's designating a specific beach there where the body was recovered. I do not know what the distance is from the recovery site to that club. So that will be interesting to see. But I think it's, and then where was the wallet found? So all of these things they'll be looking at.
Remember the case? It was Tamia Taylor. She was 21 years old, and it was the Memphis riverboat cruise she was on for her birthday with her friends. And yeah, hey, tall, light skin with green eyes. Hey, boo, hey, boo. And she was out with her friends. And so-called went missing, and they found her in the water later on. And I think they called that one accidental as well.
The proximity, putting together a timeline, and trying to explain what happened here to this young man.
Yeah, and you know, I think I'm grateful for the kindness and concern that has been shown for our family during this incredibly difficult time. We have made the decision to thank you for respecting our privacy and holding our family in your thoughts and prayers.
I don't know why my thing's skipping out like that. 5. Can y'all still hear me? Because, you know, Jaquavius likes messing with the Wi-Fi. I don't know what's going on. Moving. Let me know if y'all hear me, okay? Am I back? Am I back, guys? Let me go ahead and get this ready to close out because I don't know what's happening. Am I back? Y'all let me know if I'm back. Okay. All right. See, nothing was coming up with that either. So let me go ahead and close because I don't know what's going on. I know I got a message this morning that they were working on outages yesterday. So, okay. So now people are asking what exactly led up to this. Was this an accident? Was there foul play involved? Did he meet the wrong people? Or was this a tragic situation that spiraled out of control? Because let's be real, when someone young, healthy, and traveling ends up dead, there are always going to be questions. And right now, there are still things that don't fully make sense. And that's what makes the story hit even harder. Because this could have been anybody, any student, any trip, any family. So tonight we remember Nancy Guthrie and Jimmy Gracey. Okay? And what really happened in Barcelona. I'm going to get out of here and see what's going on because I feel like I'm still frozen. So I will see you all on tomorrow. I have a special show for tomorrow. We're going to look at the evil Paris Fashion Week and some other stuff with the Ozempics. Yeah, we're going to take a look at that tomorrow. The Ozempic face and all that other stuff. So I will see y'all on tomorrow. Bye.
No need to see viral stories and crime stories so bleak, leaving you hooked for weeks, exposing liars and racists too, crimes and scandals all exposed to you. My creativity paints the view, pull you in like the morning dew. My voice will ring through your soul tonight, forever echo in your mind's eye. Like and share if you feel the light. Subscribe and hit the bell so right. The minor key rings, it rules the game. Become a member, don't be late. Every story I claim the frame. Truth and fire is my name. Exposing liars and racists too. Crimes and scandals I'll expose to you. My creativity paints the view. Pull you in like the morning dew. My voice will ring through your soul tonight, forever echo in your mind side. Like and share if you feel the light. Subscribe and hit the bell so right.